All right then, so I'm continuing with my story. Like I said, there was something about Keith Urban. I don't know what it was, but something in me came alive. I hadn't felt that way in so long. I hadn't felt happy about anything. I was miserable. I was crying all the time. Dave and I weren't getting along because I blamed him. Of course, I'm going to blame him. He's the one that didn't do it properly or legally so that we could keep her. He didn't do it. So it was very tough going. But with the therapy and with my newfound music of Keith, I actually started healing. So that's, I owe my entire existence to him. Ah, you know, you know, everybody's down here for a reason, and I guess God sent him to me to say, "Hey, you need to get back to life again." All this depression and crying and everything is just not good for you. So we would spend the next 12 years just, worrying about her, wondering what they're doing to her. I kept tabs on them. I knew where they were living. You can look anybody up on the internet. Of course, we never went there. We never bothered them. Even though that restraining order wasn't signed, we abided by it. We didn't want to do anything to hurt them. And anyway, we wouldn't have done that anyway. We never would have thought of taking a child from a couple who was taking such good of their daughter. Never in a million years, And we had talked to her about it. If you ever want her back, let us know so we can help with the transition between the two homes. Oh no, of course they didn't want to do that. They just wanted her. His mother fell in love with her, and she was convinced that Elizabeth was her son's daughter. But he's not. We found that out too. So anyway, it was just a horrible, horrible mess. So Dave got sick in 2011. He was in the hospital 3 times that year with kidney failure. And I think it was discovered that his metformin was actually causing that. So he was taken off metformin and put on another drug called Januvia. He did okay with it. 2012, he was okay. Well, 2012, he started kind of going downhill. It was obvious to me he had some sort of dementia. He just wasn't acting right. He would put tools in the refrigerator. He didn't know how to use the remote control anymore on the TV. And this is a high-tech guy who knows everything, technically. So I knew something was wrong. So though all 3 times, he was critical, and he would have a sepsis infection, but 3 times miraculously he came out of it. It was amazing. So 2012 was okay, but like I say, he never really got his strength back. Dave did not eat very well at all, even though he was a diabetic. He didn't care. He said, "I'm going to eat what I want. I don't care. If I die, I die." So his health started going downhill. The dementia, the diabetes. Then, the last time that he was in the hospital, they told him that he had a little nodule on his liver. A little tumor. It was like 2 centimeters. It wasn't very big. And then they had an oncologist come into his room. And the oncologist said, "Oh, you've got acute liver cancer. You've got 6 months to live." Didn't take a biopsy or anything. We would go to the doctor's office to see him, and he'd say the same thing. We saw him like 2 or 3 times. And then the last time we went in, his nurse was there. Okay. And we had told her, we really don't know what's going on. I mean, he claims he's got liver cancer, but he's never done any imaging or taking a biopsy or anything. And she looked at us totally mortified. Come to find out, he's not there anymore. That he didn't do any kind of testing. He just told Dave he had cancer and he was going to die in 6 months. Can you imagine? We finally did have that biopsied, and it just said it was atypical cells. I don't know. And the doctor he went to said there was an 89% chance that it was cancer, and if it's bad, he'll start going downhill, which is what he did. Long story short, he was in the hospital for 90 days in 2013. First in the ICU in our little town of Sevierville, Dolly Parton's hometown. Then he was transferred to Knoxville. Then he was transferred to a rehab. Everybody expected him to totally come out of all of it. But the nurses weren't taking care of him properly. He still had a lot of fluid in his lungs. And in the hospital, he was constantly being suctioned out to get all that fluid out of there. At the rehab facility / nursing home, they never did it. Never did it. I had a meeting with the supervisor of the place, and she said, oh, he's in such good shape. She says, I expect him to come out and, go back home and just be great. But because these nurses weren't taking care of him properly, he had a seizure. I worked at Dollywood for 12 hours that Sunday. I came back, and he wasn't really responding to me, but I was exhausted. I mean, I had just worked 12 hours. So I went out into the lobby and I slept on the couch. And I think I did mention it to the nurses. I said, I think he's having seizures because his hand was doing this and he wasn't really responding to me. They said, he's fine. There's nothing wrong with him. All night long. All night long. So here I am. I come there at 1 a.m. I go to sleep. The next day, same thing. He's doing this. Not responding to me at all. I could tell the nurses there's something wrong with him. He's not responding to me. And they kept saying, there's nothing wrong with him. He's fine. So that night, when the good nurses came on, they knew immediately something was wrong because he wasn't responding to them either. So they rushed him to the hospital. He had a major stroke in his brain. There was a bleed in his brain. And apparently there was no going back. I fought for like 5-6 days to try and get him out of it, but he was sedated. He had bad pneumonia. He wound up getting the sepsis, and he eventually died. And it was just horrible. And during that time, I had actually called the so-called father of Elizabeth, and I left him a voice. No, wait, did I leave him a voicemail or an email? I think I sent him an email saying, Dave is very sick. He's not going to make it. Could you just bring Elizabeth here so that he can at least hear her voice? And he refused to bring her. I'm not going to bring her. I don't give a shit. So fine, he didn't bring her. So poor Dave, from 2000 until the day he died, 13 years, never saw his daughter again. Ever. And I don't care what anybody says, okay? We brought her home. She was ours, okay? I will always consider her my daughter. Even though she's not with me, I had her close to 10 months. So nobody's ever going to tell me that I wasn't her mother. I was. And I don't care what people say. I felt more love for that child than her mother had in her pinky. So eventually, after Dave died, her mother starts harassing me on Facebook and teasing me and saying, "Oh, you can go see Elizabeth if you want to. Why don't you come and see her?" But she had gotten divorced from the guy. And when she did that, Elizabeth decided to live with him and not her. Talk about karma, huh? I knew all along, from the minute I met her, that she was not a good person. But Elizabeth apparently did very well. She sent me a picture of her in 8th grade. She sent me some pictures from her kindergarten graduation. And so apparently, when Elizabeth was ready to go to school, she had her name for 5 years after they took her. When they went to school, they went to court and changed her name to his last name. And he lied under oath and said he was the biological father. So that was when she was 5 years old. So, for all those years, she was Darcy. And then she got her new last name. And then they sealed the birth certificate and all that so that, she'd never find out and all this kind of stuff. Well, apparently she did find out about 4 or 5 years ago. She found out, her mother told me. And she started writing me again on Facebook, her mother, teasing me again. "Don't you want to see Elizabeth? She's graduating." And I'm like, I finally got to the point where I am sick of it, okay? All you ever do is torment me over Elizabeth. And after what you did to me, I don't want nothing to do with you anymore. I had finally found all my answers. And that was a lot of the problem. We didn't know what was going on with the baby, what was going on with them. When I finally got all the answers, it took all the weight off of me. Because now I knew what happened, what they did, and I felt so much better about it. And I finally got over it. I didn't think I ever would, but I did, because I had just enough of her mother, tormenting me and teasing me to go see her. And that's when she told me, "Oh, Elizabeth found out 3 years ago about you and about Robert not being her father." She was what, how old? 15, 16 when she found out? How awful is that? At least she told me she knew about it. I don't know. I haven't been able to find her on Facebook. There is somebody by that name, but there's several of them, and one of them does not have a picture, so I don't know. Now that she's an adult, I may go into each one of those and see if any one of them are her. So that was Father's Day in 2000, and I don't know why. For some reason today, it just came over me, and I just felt like bawling on this live chat that I was in, because people were talking about how they lost their fathers. And I lost my daddy in 2011, the same year that Dave was sick 3 times. Those were the 2 men in my life who were my rocks. They were always there for me. And after Dave died, I just felt so alone. So alone. I never really bonded with my stepmother. I never liked her. She didn't like me either. She beat the hell out of me when I was a kid. And she always verbally abused me up until the time I left that house. So I really was alone. And I miss her every day. I have her pictures all around me because I have to have her around me somehow. I got Mother's Day with her. We had, Opryland had been demolished. And they built this big old stupid mall, Opry Mills Mall in Nashville. And all four of us went there. Her mother, her mother's husband, yeah, she finally married that jerk. Elizabeth, Dave, and me. And she wanted to get Elizabeth's ears pierced. So we went and got Elizabeth's ears pierced, and then I got some earrings myself, and I gave her a pair, the mother. I gave her a pair as well. And I said, well, after all, it is Mother's Day, and you are a mother. She had the most guilty look on her face, and I had no idea why. They had been planning that. That was Mother's Day. So that's my story, and it was so, so hard to lose her, you know. But I'm just, I'm so glad that karma got her in the butt, got the mother in the butt. She paid for what she did to us when she lost her. So it's crazy, absolutely crazy. So that's what I'm going through this year. Um, all the past years, I haven't really thought about it, but I don't. It's just hitting me this year, and then June 19th is the 6 year anniversary of Dave passing. So June's not really a good month for me. Not at all. Anyway, that's my story. And I just had to get off my chest because it hurts so bad. I'll see y'all later. Thanks for listening. Bye bye.